and we're trying something completely new, very exciting new feature on Chessable. And the new feature is their new classroom. So I'm the guinea pig. I'm the person who has to try it out and work out all the software as I go. Great, just what I wanted. But it's a really cool thing. And what we're going to do today, we're just going to have a look at all the games. And maybe I was watching them live, and I can give you my perspective on what I think was very interesting from today's play. Now, do bear with me today because I've only learnt the classroom today, and it's got so many cool features. It's something I'm going to have to get used to as I over the next, well, probably the rest of my life, I'd imagine. So as Chessable is so popular now. But hello to everyone who's here. So it's really nice to have you all here, and I can see you, which is quite bizarre because I'm not normally able to see you when I'm doing a stream. So that's quite a nice feature. And obviously, if you do want to hide yourself, then you can as well. But we are streaming this one. And you can also use the chat box, as I'm sure you're aware. So on the right-hand side, you can chat things in there, and I'll see you. I'll see your chat as we go through the action. So anyway, very exciting day, I think. And I guess most things went, I think, pretty much according to the way I thought they might go. We had the youngest grandmaster ever playing, Mishra, who was this 12-year-old who's a fantastic player. But he is only 12 years old, and he was struggling a bit. And I don't even know the results of the last round. So maybe you guys can update me in the chat, actually, what happened. I was watching a bit of it, but we had to set up the classroom here. But I say we dive straight into the action. And let's have a look at this game here. Now, I found this game extremely interesting. This is the game from round one. This is Mamajarov, the Shack machine against Eduardo. And the reason I found this interesting, whenever a new idea is played, it's often something that, like in chess nowadays, new ideas in the opening, it's like they just don't come about because obviously chess has been practiced and tried so many times. And Mamajarov, being one of the most imaginative players in the world, well, he started off by playing d4, and well, we see Eduardo going for the King's Indian defense. This is knight f6 and g6, and here white gains the center, and we get a normal position here. This is the start of the King's Indian defense, and typically white puts the pawn into the center of the board here with e4, gains the big center. But knight f3 is also a very normal move. So we had knight f3 played, and now castle's kingside. And again, this position has been seen loads of times before. And nearly everyone plays like e4, getting that center, maybe plays g3. And one thing I've always struggled with myself, and I don't know if this is are the pieces not okay? Click on load to board. Okay, right. Here we go. We'll get there eventually. I am the guinea pig. Let's try. So can you see it now? Let's have a look. So we're going through the moves. Hello to everyone, by the way, from the official Chess24 stream who's come and joined in, and we just got a raid from here. So hello, everyone there. We're using the new Chessable classroom. It's the first time I've used it, so we're going to see how it goes. And we're going to be taking a look at what I think are the highlights of the day's action. So we're going to have a bit of an hour, and we're going to pick up on little bits that I think were very cool from what happened today. And we're starting with a round one game, Mamajarov versus Eduardo. And we have this King's Indian defense. And one thing I was saying about this position was that whenever I played white and I faced the King's Indian defense, and this is from my experience of playing d4, I don't know, for 25 years, I never find a good way to attack black setup, and I love attacking. So I normally put the pawn on e4. Hopefully you can see that now, and just play that position. But Mamajarov's idea I thought was really interesting. He moves the knight out, and after castles, he doesn't play e4 here. He plays bishop g5. Now this move is meant to be quite a slow positional move, but I think his idea is basically just complete, as Danny King said in the commentary, and I think David Howell at some point, it's really just caveman style. He just wants to go queen d2, bishop h6, swap off the main defender of black's king, and go h4, h5 and checkmate him. And I love this idea. I think it's a brilliant new idea. So I don't know really what black should play. The normal idea in the King's Indian defense is d6. So if black did play this d6 move here, then let's just see how it could potentially go. Well, I think queen d2. In the King's Indian defense, black either tries to play c5 or e5 here. And, well, in this position, e5, you can just take on e5. And if c5, I think I'm going to push on. And we saw that Mamedyarov had a game like this later on. But if black plays quite slowly here, and I think you tried this out yourselves, and let's say you get a chance to go on Lead Chess or something like this afterwards, or the Play Zone at Chess 24, I would say if you see an idea, give it a go. Let's say black plays knight d7. I think really white's just going to try this idea of checkmate, maybe even h4 here. Let's just see it in action. I don't know which one you play first. Probably bishop h6. The slight advantage of this move is that you stop black from playing h5. And if black plays, again, badly and more slow moves, this can be a very powerful idea. And I'm just going to play some rubbish moves here, but just to demonstrate white's plan. But white's plan is to go h5, take on g6, bring the queen in, which I think you've all probably seen this plan before, this very aggressive plan. Now, Insanity in the Twitch chat is saying that after bishop g5, maybe black should go h6. And that's precisely what black plays. And I think the point is, if black doesn't play this h6 move, we've seen what white's idea is. It's just very straightforward. So Edward, and I can't remember the opponent later on, I think it was David Anton, played this move also against Shaq. And now where do you put the bishop? Now, it may look natural to put it here, but there's downsides to put it on this square. Let's see if we can get some chat going. So I do encourage everyone in the Chessable classroom to use the chat box. What could be the downside of white putting the bishop on that square, which looks a lot more active? So it doesn't matter if you're wrong. You can just chat in the box. And okay, Super Bold is saying g5. The downside in the game, white played the bishop back to d2, but a more natural option might have been to put the bishop on f4. But the question is, what is the potential downside of putting it there? So we've had g5 as an idea. We've had e5 as an idea. We've had knight h5 as an idea. And all of these are very valid ideas, I think. I wouldn't be so worried about g5 here, because now, if I was white, I'd be thinking, well, that is a real target. And I might be able to play h4 later on and open things up. So I'd probably here move my bishop back to d2 and think, okay, I'm going to go h4 and try to open up that area of the board with this pawn break. So g5, I'm not so worried about. Now, d5 is a very interesting way to try and counterattack. But I expect in this position, I would do the same plan, queen d2. Maybe even here, g5 has more relevance than it did before. I don't think the sacrifice is going to work here, but the point is now black has some control of the center, so he can try to do something in the center. My bishop doesn't have a good square, and maybe you can even throw the knight into the middle of the board. So I think bishop f4, the simple sort of, you're going to explain this verbally, the simple explanation is verbally, that it's more of a target on this square. So Shaq's new opening idea, and I've never seen this before, ever, is bishop d2. And I just love this idea. Let's just have a look at what happens. Now, d6 is a very sensible move. And he just tries to do the same plan. He goes queen c1. And he's now saying that that h6 pawn is a real weakness. So how does black guard that? And let's try this g5 move now. Well, you probably know what white should do in this position, right? I've kind of given it away. It's one of my favorite moves. So what should white play? Well done, Harmony. And it is, of course, h4. And it's even stronger here. I love playing h4. And, you know, obviously, probably one of the reasons I picked this game to have a look. And this move is really, really good in this position, because you can see black's king side is just very weak. If you push on here, which maybe you can do, I might even consider taking on h6 now. And if you take my knight, what would be a good way to recapture that pawn with? Just, well, actually, maybe even have a stronger move. But let's have some suggestions. Imagine you're white here, and you just don't see this happening against the King's Indian defense. So this is kind of extremely unique. G takes f3. Well done. And Excuse me if I get your names wrong. My pronunciations are generally appalling. So thank you, Moxleys. Oh dear, look at some of these names. Can't you just be called Dave and Bob? It'd be a lot easier. But yes, okay, G takes F3. And already this position to me looks incredibly dangerous. The rook is coming to G1, and there's a big attack in the position. So let's go back again. And after the idea of Queen C1 in this position, the only way to defend this pawn really is to play King H7. And now we see the second point of White's idea. And White's idea now, well, he plays super aggressively with H4. And this is completely insane idea, which again, I haven't seen before. But the idea is to try to play at some point H5, make the G pawn move. If it moves forwards, maybe sacrifice on that square. And if it doesn't move forwards, we're going to try to capture and attack the king. So very interesting opening idea. Let's just have a look how this game develops. So black now tries to counterattack, and black can't sit there and be passive. He needs to counterattack. And the rule is you should meet a wing attack with an attack in the center. Black now has to face this one, and white wants to keep the space advantage, push in onwards. Black aims at E5. And now it's it goes into quite a normal position. It goes E4. But if we think about this opening in more general terms, the whole idea of the King's Indian defense, well, again, you guys, maybe you can answer this question. What is black's main pawn break in the middle game in the King's Indian defense? So white often, not in this position, will play on the queen side, but yes, that is correct. Well done. Well done, all three of you with the last answer. Black's main break is F5. So another idea we can see now with this H4 idea, it's not just an aggressive idea, it's also a positional idea. Because black would ideally want to play F5. And if we capture on F5, black wants to really take back with his pawn. But if he does move his knight to the normal square, let's say his knight goes back to E8 now, he would love to be able to play this move. So again, if I wasn't really paying attention and I try to get some queenside action, he might get this move in. And if I capture, the kind of position that black really wants to get is this kind of position. These pawns, they guard each other and they control all of these squares on the fourth rank. And they can be very, very dangerous. So again, these are little positional things that you can bear in mind. But let's say knight E8's play. What would be a good move for white here? It doesn't maybe stop F5, but it stops that plan. And it's something to do with the whole opening strategy. So what could be played here? Well, G4 would be a nice idea if the bishop wasn't able to take it. Don't know if you can sacrifice that pawn yet. Chess flow, well done. I have to say, I'm liking the classroom now. Now I'm getting used to the classroom a bit more. It's probably going to take me a couple of shows. You can do clever things like I can set you tests and exams, but I'm not going to experiment with that quite yet because I'll probably close the program. So we won't try that one. Well, knight H2 would be a nice idea. Dude Abides, good film, that one, good character. If you have time to play G4, but a lot of things in chess is all about timing. And if you played knight H2 here, I don't think you have time to play G4 because it's black's move and black gets F5 in. But the move I was certainly thinking of playing here is the move H5. And the point of this is it's actually a positional idea. So, and we're just sort of really getting into this opening quite deeply now. We'll move on to another game shortly. And the point is, well, if you now go F5, it's really bad because I can open up the rook. I can simply take here. And there's lots of good moves. Knight H4 check. Look at the black king. The black king is completely exposed. Bishop takes H6. Looks pretty strong as well. So black can't go F5 here. And if he goes G5, well, positionally, we can play something like Bishop D3. And his break of F5, okay, again, you can think about sacrificing on G5. But if we're thinking about stopping our opponent's ideas, if he ever plays this move, well, now you can see the big difference. He can't recapture with the pawn. And why is this often a good positional transformation? The reason it's a good positional transformation is that you get the E4 square. And in chess, it's often about if you can gain a central square for your pieces, that is a major cool thing to do. And you can do that. You can even whack that in there straight away. So let's go back to the game. So this is just little ideas here. Now, if we go forwards, black tried knight h5, which is, I think, a better idea because it stops white from playing h5. So these guys are pretty strong. They're all going to find the best moves. And now bishop d3, aimed at this idea. And even here, f5 might have been playable. And maybe here, I think this should have probably been tried. But this would be typical Mamedyarov. He's a complete lunatic. He loves attacking. What idea do we think Mamedyarov might have had saved up in this position? And by the way, hello to everyone on the Twitch chat. There's loads of people in the classroom here, which is pretty cool. And it's interesting how the webcam of people there. So it turned, normally a streamer, you can't see anyone, so it's pretty nice. But have a think here. What could be white's idea? Because kind of black's now got what he wants, right? And remember, Mamedyarov is a super aggressive player. And, well, knight g5 is the kind of move you're thinking of. But after pawn takes knight, I can go pawn takes, but it is a whole piece, and I don't really believe it. Let's just show it. You can get this check in. I'm going to take your knight. If you take with a bishop, I just move my queen. If you take with a pawn, you don't really have any threats here. So maybe I go king g8, get off the idea. So that wouldn't be my first thought. So now we have Cap E bar saying pawn takes f5. Well, I'm thinking that, but what might you be following pawn takes f5 up with? Let's say black does the move he wants to play, pawn takes pawn. And is there a continuation there? Well done, Chess Flow. Very good. I hope that I think, by the way, Chessable has been doing this every day, and you're going to have some great people. I think Anisha's going to do one. I'm afraid you've only got me today, but maybe even Kramnik's going to be doing one of these. So you're going to get free lessons of some of the best players in the world, which I think is pretty awesome. But yeah, I think Mamedyarov's idea here would be to take here and now play g4. And this looks much more of a Mamedyarov idea. And the point is, we're using the pin on the pawn. We're attacking the knight here. And if the knight moves, well, in this position, we can probably take that knight and take here. And we've opened up at least some lines towards the black king. So I think we're going to move on to another game. But I just wanted to show that opening idea. And let's just go over it one more time. So if you're not sure, if you're a d4 player, or if you know someone who plays the King's Indian defense, then I think this is a very interesting way to play. So first of all, stage one, let's just break it down into stages. You control a bit of the center and you bring your knight out, d4, c4, knight c3. Now, you do have to be prepared in this position for the Grunfeld, but that's something else. And if they go bishop g7, Mamedyarov now brings his other knight out. And his basic idea here, let's just remember his idea, is to go bishop g5. He's trying to provoke the h6 move, and then he's going to move the bishop back to the d2 square and attack that h6 pawn, or otherwise he's going to go for checkmate. He's just going to try moving the bishop, moving the queen, and checkmate. So let's just see that in action after black castles. This is this idea I've never seen before. Bishop g5, queen d2, and bishop to h6 if black does nothing. If black ever plays c5, because you're attacking on the king side as white here, you don't really want to open up the position. So if you're attacking on one area of the board, you want to try to keep the other areas closed to try to snuff out counterplay from your opponent. So d5 would be the way to play here. Try to keep it as closed as possible. And if black plays h6, we see this really interesting idea. You don't want to expose this bishop, but you do want to keep the pressure on the h6 pawn. So you move the bishop back to d2. And after any move, you now play queen here. You're threatening to win the pawn. So black's got to do something about that. And now this lovely h4 move. And one of the ideas of this is you're going to, at some point, just try to sacrifice that pawn, get the rook in the game. And if black plays very quietly, you can often play this move. Let's just show that on the board. If black ever takes this pawn, well, we can play g4. And we're going to break on through to the other side on h6. And if black pushes this one, well, now we can certainly consider doing something like this and even using that h-pawn with some kind of attack at the right moment. You have to time that one well. Okay, anyway, let's go to another game. So that was one very interesting moment, I thought, from the games. But let's see if I can get this to work now. So that was round one, and that was probably the most interesting opening idea that I saw. Now, let's have a look at other games. Just bear with me. So while we load this next game up. And guys, you can also just chat in the box if you've got any things. If you've got any questions at all, you can try asking me, and or you can even have a chat with yourselves there. Okay, round 3, 4. Let's just. I'm going to have to just get the right bit up, and there you are. Okay, now I'm just going to try. Okay, so we had some other interesting results from that round, and well, I mean, there was quite a lot of blunders. I can show you just this game from round one. This was quite a shocker. And of course, Aronian won the last one of these Champions Tour games. And he seemed to be on really, really good form. He's playing Jordan van Forest. Jordan, this young Dutch superstar, really nice guy. Ronian's a lovely guy as well. Not that really should matter in the chess. And, well, talking about opening ideas, I expect a lot of you guys, a lot of you people watching this, you're similar to me, and we love playing like tricky openings where we got a good chance to win quickly. But at top level, at level in competitions, playing tricky openings, they don't really work, and they often backfire. And we can see that Jordan comes out with this very interesting gambit line here, and this has been played many times. And the first new move that we saw was, this is why it's a gambit line, because black grabs this pawn. But the point of white's play is that he has this weird d5 move. And again, if you're ever going to play any of these gambit variations, you have to know them a lot. And we see that we have someone who plays this in blitz. And I think it's quite cool to experiment with these ideas. I mean, I was speaking to a very strong player, Jonathan Spielman, the other day, who was number 4 in the world in the 80s, and he's been a second for Garry Kasparov, a second for Viktor Korchnoi, some of the best players. He's in the semi-final twice, and I was discussing with him, about the move e5, and he said he's never ever played e5 because he's always been worried about these gambit lines. So these little lines where white plays a gambit, they're probably the first lines that you should learn when you're trying to learn the sharpest lines first so you don't get tricked out. It's probably a good course there. Play against the gambit lines. I'm sure someone will do that. But the first new move we saw in this game was in this position. Can anyone remember the move? It was a really bizarre move. And this position is, chess flow, you're on the case here. I think previously white had tried moving a piece here. And you can see that white has a bit of compensation. But white's idea was very interesting. And white's new idea was rook f4, very, very blunt. And after castles, just rook takes f6. And this was a very nice idea to open up the king. But I do think, and I haven't checked this with computers, but I expect computers will refute this. It doesn't mean it's not playable, but it means it has some great surprise value. And now I think the great move that Aronian played here was in this position. So when you are material up, and at this moment, black is an exchange of pawn up, and it's just a little moment from this game, which I think we can all learn from. A really wise thing to do is just to give back some of that material as soon as you can to take the pressure off your position. I think trying to hold on to material is, if you got the option of either holding on to material or giving that material back immediately, but relieving the pressure, making your game easier to play, you should give back the material. And I think here, Aronian's move, rook e5, is just a great example of that. It's a very good practical choice. So I think if you're ever getting attacked in your own games and you can see a move where, well, basically white has to really grab this one, where you can straighten up your pawns and try to exchange off some pieces. And eventually, when Aronian plays f5 here, his position looks reasonably safe because he's getting his queen behind these two great pawns. So there's a little lesson to be learned there. And top players will often do that. They find the initiative is an incredibly useful thing to have. Okay, let's move on to another game. Jordan won this game. Well, actually, we won't move on quite yet, but it was amazing what happened here. We'll go a bit later on. Now, Aronian did that one. He gave back the material. We're just going to jump into the ending. And after king f5, you can see that Aronian is a pawn up. But what is maybe the main advantage that Black has here? Let's give you a chance to chat in the chat box here. So as well as being a pawn up, what is Black's sort of main advantage here? So obviously having the extra pawn is very useful, but it is opposite kind of bishops. You have the passed pawn, says John Mill. That wasn't the main advantage I was thinking of, but it is an advantage, well spotted, because the bishop is doing that. More active king, active bishop. I think active everything, right? You've got the very active king, you've got a very active bishop, but look at your rook. And your most powerful piece can zoom along the back rank. It can come up here and attack here. And if you compare it to your opponent's activity, White's rook, if White's rook was anywhere behind the black king, then I think White would be absolutely okay here. But there's no way the White rook can get in the game. So piece activity in the ending is maybe even more important than the opening because you've got less pieces on the board. So it counts for more. But this was a real shocker. So the game went on with now Black using that activity, and he pushes the king even further backwards. But the next move was horrendous. He had to just try and maybe do something like this, put the rook on g5. And he played this, what looks like a clever idea, f3. And that looks quite clever because, okay, if I take the rook, you're going to go bang, bang. And it looks like, I mean, this is one of those ones where it should give us all hope if someone as strong as Aronian can play a move like this. And how about, does anyone want to try using their microphone? Let's try this out. Anyone want to be brave and try using the microphone to tell me the answer? We haven't tried this yet. So we're trying new things in the classroom here. By the way, anyone can join the classroom. If you're watching this in the Twitch chat, I'm sure there's a link there where you can come and join in the classroom. And I think as things, oh, we have someone.
I guess rook f2 might be a problem for Black.
Okay, rook f2 is an interesting idea, and that's trying to pin the pawn down. Thank you that you're our first person ever to use the microphone on the Chessable classroom. I think you should get an award for that. I want, yes, round of applause. That's just, we've got our first user. So thank you there. That's very kind. But that's a nice
G4?
idea. Oh,
Sorry.
well done. Yes, it is. And how do you pronounce your
Andy
name?
is the name. It's my.
What's your name, sorry?
Andy.
Andy. Okay, thank you. That makes it a bit easier. Thank you, Andy. So G4 is the move that was missed. And what a horrible move. And you know, I think in chess, you probably get this more than many other sports where if someone makes a horrendous mistake, it's really, really just devastating. And obviously the point is here, you have to do something with the check. And Aronian has just blundered his rook. And like I say, a very painful experience for Aronian, but it does give us all hope if these players at this level can blunder. Anyone is blundered. So I have just been told that I think it was it? How do you say your name? And I'm going to say Mop at the moment, which is not right. How do you say your name?
It's German. Mop sleeves.
Mop sleeves. Is that about right? Mop sleeves. I'm not going to say it right because but I hope that's close enough. But I can say.
You spell the E at the ending too.
Okay, Mop sleeves is. Okay, kind of. Okay, but I've been told we are able to give you a prize. So you have actually won a prize. So you are able to get a free Chessable socks, T-shirt, or mug. It's your choice. So I don't know how we're going to get your prize over to you, but we will sort that out. So we'll work out what your handle is and we'll get over to you. So you might have a nice, and well, I'm being told now that Louis, who is producing. What one would you like? We're being told it's going to be shipped over to you, so you can have a lovely pair of Chessable socks there if you want.
I'd like a mug, please.
A mug, okay. Our first ever mug for being given away there. Brilliant. So we've been told that will be shipped to you. Hopefully that'll be arranged anyway. So well done and get involved anyway. Okay, and like I say, this is the first time we use the classroom, and we're gonna in future. I really like it because it's a very interactive way to do stuff, and hopefully we can make it much better. But let's now move on to another game. And I think there was, by the way, we're told we're going to reach out via email to you. So that's how we're going to get that over to you, just so you know, we will get that. Now, I think one thing I found really interesting, and we're going to go to, let me just get the game up again. Obviously, we now, let's have a chat about the youngest player in the competition. And this was Mishra. And this game I thought was extremely good in learning some important principles from. So this was Mishra versus Wesley So. And we know just how strong Wesley So is. He's probably, along with Magnus, the strongest player in these events. The format seems to fit him very well. But Mishra, even though he didn't get a very good score, as I mentioned, very good experience for him. But I thought he showed some very promising signs. And we'll go for the opening quite quickly because it's not actually the most important part of the game. Now, they played a sensible kind of opening. Queen b3 is slightly odd. I'm not aware of this move myself, but it can't be a terrible move. You're not supposed to bring your queen out that early, but it does defend the pawn and you have a nice center. So it's not by any means a stupid move. And in this position, it's bishop f5. And we've been told it was Sabotage the Slav, a chessball course he studied. Okay, right. There we go. It's all chessball courses. So, and we do know that obviously Mishra, is it right in thinking he's done more chessball courses than anyone else in the world, I think, by Boris Averuk, who's a really good author. So he must have spent, I mean, how many years of his 12 years has he spent on chessball, I wonder? 2 years of his 12 years on chessball, but it's paid off. He's a grandmaster. And if we go forwards, it's pretty sensible position where we get this position where white has an extra pawn in the center, but Wesley is a very solid. And one of the strengths that Wesley does when he's black, he doesn't take many risks. He plays extremely solid structures, well prepared. Not like Shak Mamedyarov. Mamedyarov will take, as we've seen, crazy risks. And it strikes me that Mishra is quite a positional player as well. So they now develop their pieces. And again, very much normal play. The queen steps out of the way of maybe a knight attack. This is all nothing to report here. And now, okay, Wesley again keeps it solid. And I think what Wesley's doing here is very clever because he's basically saying, okay, my opponent Mishra, he's young. What are his strengths? Well, okay, his theory is probably very good. He might even have a better memory than me because he's memorized all these things. So I'm going to use my experience to try and do something later on in the game. I don't mind just getting an equal position. And we see the game developing with both sides playing again, developing, and now they've all developed their pieces. After bishop e4, I like this move because these squares in the center are very, very important moves. And we see around here that many pieces get exchanged off. So again, not too much to report, but we're going to get into a middle game position. And we could spend a lot of time here, of course. Why didn't black exchange on b3? Okay, we can quickly answer that. So black could exchange on b3 in this position. Interesting question, because these pawns, of course, do look ugly. But are these weakened pawns, are they more or less important than what white's gained? And white has gained the A file, and there's also a very important move in this position. Let's say it was white's move. Okay, I'm just going to put h6 on the board. There's a very important move in this position that you see time and time again with the knight on c4 in the middle game. Can anyone see a good move for white here? There is a move in this position that is a very typical and good move here. That is, well, knight e5 looks natural, but I think there's an even stronger idea. And chess flow, you got it again. Well done. And well done, Harmony, as well. It is knight to a5, and this is well worth remembering because you don't normally put the knights on the side of the board. But in this case, when black has, oh, look at this, we can get different colors. Wow. The green on the board. Lovely. We're learning things all the time. But in this case, this is one of those patterns in chess, one of those strategic patterns that you should get used to and remember, because the point is black would love to move the B pawn, but then of course you lose your C pawn. So you can't move the B pawn. And if black has to, well, how can black even defend the pawn here? I think black's going to maybe lose a pawn. If you go rook b8, I develop my bishop with tempo, and I'm going to win the pawn. So this maybe is one of the reasons why black did not swap pawns. It maybe wasn't even the A file. It was more about this idea of playing the knight to a5. And that is certainly in these structures an idea well worth remembering. Okay, but let's go forwards in the game. And we get the queens off later on. And we get a position where, and the opening I don't think is that important, but it's this position here. And I still think after a5, I think this is even position. Now, bishops are supposed to be better than knights generally, but after a couple of moves, we can see that black's knight is fantastic there. The only way you can get rid of that knight is by playing e4. And there's a real downside to playing e4 for white. Why? I mean, a lot of players, I think, especially more inexperienced players, and this is where I think the position gets very interesting, would be tempted to play e4. But why is e4 a mistake? And Harmony has hit the nail on the head. But anyone else want to try using the microphone as well? Should we give it a go? Anyone else want to try to tell me why e4 is a mistake in this position? What does it weaken? And generally, every pawn move you make in chess, they do weaken squares. Every single pawn move you play weakens a square. For example, a4 has weakened the b4 square because you can't cover that square. And yeah, the problem with this one is that this pawn here becomes very weak. And actually, you don't ever want to play e4 in this pawn structure. And this is a pawn structure you will get often when you play d4, unless the queens are on the board. Why is it better to play this move when queens are on the board? Because you can often get an attack based around your strong center. But in this position, we can see that that pawn has just become a real target now. So you don't want to play that. So I still think that the game Mishra plays very well. He plays rook c5, and now he decides that the knight should be taken off. He plays b4, and these are all good moves. And we get a position which I still think is even, because it's a little bit weak, this pawn here. But on the plus side, well, the pawn on b7 is weak. And it still seems very even. But there was, I think, a very telling moment later on. Let's say we got to this position. Now, I think white has done pretty much everything he can do on the queen side. So you can't really do much else. Now, what would be a very, and I think this is a very high level positional move now. So you can't really do anything else on the queen side. You've got your rooks as advanced as you can. I mean, you could try to bring your rook around like this, but you'd lose your A pawn. So you can't really do anything with that. So you need to try and look at the other side of the board, other pieces. And these pieces, well, you can't do anything with them. And the danger is if black is maybe able to do a minority attack. So, okay, do the bite. You've got completely the right idea. You want to try to maybe take space on the other side of the board. So what is the best way of doing that? I mean, you could try to play for e4. That's certainly not a bad idea. I wouldn't play it now because, well, if you play it now, there is a little tactic where, of course, you can win this pawn back. But you've got to ask yourself, when you play any pawn break and any change of structure occurs, you've got to ask yourself, who's that change of structure helped? And who has this change of structure helped more? I would say black, because you've weakened this pawn again. You can't defend that pawn with another pawn. So be very careful when you change pawn structures. So I wouldn't play e4 here. So we're having some ideas here. And we've got ideas of bringing the king like this. And of course, pointing out that we're going to lose the a pawn if we do that as well. A little tactical idea, but more structurally. We've got to fix structures here. Someone suggested h4 to gain space. And I remember a lesson I learned in exactly the same structure as this. And one of England's best grandmasters, I say best grandmasters, but in this position, he's made his living from this structure of basically having 5 pawns like this against 4 pawns. And he's taught me time and time again that the next move is so important for white to play. And now some of you are getting the right move. Well done. And he taught me time and time again, the move to always play is G4 here. Now, why is this move possibly better than H4? It's just a little structure thing. Well, we've got to think what black is going to try to do. And when you have a minority of pawns, as black does here, he basically has 3 pawns really against these 4 pawns. The only way black can try to really win this position, he's not going to do it on the queen side. One side needs to make a weakness on the other side. He's going to try to do a minority attack. So you've got to think how black's going to use these pawns to break through. And the main minority attack you do in this structure is by playing G5 and F4 at the right moment. And we're going to see how that happens actually in the game. If you play G4 as white straight away, that is Keith Arkell. Well done, Nick Webb. Yeah, I forgot to say who it was. It was Grandmaster Keith Arkell. And I learned a lot about these, what a lot of people might say are boring structures, but they're so important to improve your chess, knowing about what to do in certain pawn structures. And he just told me this G4 move is just so important. And this move really makes it very hard for black to play any advance over here. And in actual fact, maybe white can now slowly move forwards. And as someone suggested early on, I'd probably want to put my king here, get my pawns as far as I can, and then I can play F3 and E4. It's the kind of position you want to really gradually move everything forwards to just cramp your opponent. And this was, I think, showing a little bit of lack of experience. Let's just show how the game went, because Mishra thought, I'm just going to move my king in. But look at the difference now. Wesley plays king D8, okay, king F2, and now F5. And G4 would have stopped this move straight away. So H4, and this still doesn't look too bad. But the problem now is that black can gradually open something up on the king side. And it's a very small thing, but at this level, it makes a big difference. So they maneuver around a little bit more. And you can see how Wesley's brought his king over to defend his weakness. Quite clever play. And white has got his king here. Okay, they're doing a bit of maneuvering, but the key idea comes now. First of all, why would H6 be a mistake? And you've got to be so careful when you move pawns in order to make breaks. And H6 would actually be a very big mistake here. Yeah, well done, everyone. Yeah, well done. Well done, Core. You're straight on it there. This allows, of course, to move H5. And this pawn just kills all of these 3 pawns, which I think is quite clear. And at some point, the rook maybe can just come around and attack that one. So you can't allow that one. So if you want to play for G5, you've got to play G6 first. And this is what happened. And let's just have a look. And eventually, after a lot of maneuvering, you can see even a pair of rooks come off, but not much is happening. But it's all about not playing G4. They're dancing about at the moment. They're dancing about. And look, black is slowly making this progress over here. And eventually, he takes the open file, which wouldn't have been possible. And he dances about a little bit more. And you can see he's just managed to create something on that side of the board. So it's just a little structural thing there. But I think that was even possibly the losing move in some respects. I mean, I'm sure, obviously, white could have played a lot better. But this key move, G4, with the queens off the board, was very, very important there. Okay, so we'll move on to another game. And like I say, if you just joined the broadcast, we're using the new Chessable classroom, trying something a little bit different today. I think you're going to have, after the stream each day, there's going to be a different grandmaster giving a lesson. So I think even Kramnik's going to be given a lesson. I hope you all heckle Kramnik much more than you're heckling me. You don't get a chance to heckle Kramnik often, so I would say give it a go. And I'd be too scared to heckle Kramnik, to be honest. He's far too... he's just a legend, complete legend, Kramnik, and he seems like a lovely guy. It's all the presenters are. Okay, so where should we go next? Now, Let's just bear with me where I have to load up the next one, which I thought was interesting from the first game. He is one of the big Ks, isn't he? Dude abides. He's Kramnik, Kasparov, Karpov. Who else have we got? So we got those. We got those three. Anyone else? What are the big Ks? There must be more than those three, right? Must be more. Okay. Korchnoi. Thank you, John. Yes, Korchnoi. Korchnoi. Yeah, I played Korchnoi 3 times actually. I've never played any of the other big Ks, but Korchnoi is a real character. There must be more than those as well, I'm sure. But I can't think of it. Keingold. Oh dear, don't even go there. Okay, so now I mean we could look at again. Well, very quickly, Mishra, and it's always interesting to see these young grandmasters how strong they're going to be. And I think at 12 years old, you can't really tell. But I thought what he did. This was game Hikaru Nakamura versus Mishra, and this was. We just have a look at the interest at the opening because one of the courses I actually did for Chessable was on the Iron English, and I played the English opening for. Let's see. I started playing chess when I was about 6. My dad taught me this when I was 6 or 7, and I played it. I must have played it competitively for like 12 years. It got me to international master strength, and here Hikaru plays. Let's go into it. The English opening. I don't normally move the knight there straight away, but it doesn't matter. And we were talking about Mamajarov's idea, but in this position, whenever your opponent plays the fianchetto and you have more pawns in the center, it seems that this h4 idea is growing and growing in popularity. And after knight takes c3, it was interesting because I was watching Magnus Carlsen commentate on this at the time. And he actually said probably the best move here is to go for the queen ending, a queenless ending, where he actually thinks white's a little bit better. And I remember MVL has lost many games in this position where white can try to take on g6 and open up on the king side. And I don't know, this is really refined taste, this position. The king can settle on c2, but obviously b takes is more interesting. And let's go a little bit further forwards. We had c5, and I've had this position before, and I think this pawn is very, very annoying. The point of putting your pawn on h5 and these kind of structures is it's got kind of 2 ideas. First of all, if black ever castles, and I had this position once, clearly the idea now is to take on g6, and let's say h takes g6. You've got this open file. I did have this position once in one of my games, and there's a very nice idea here, which is, again, quite brutal. So imagine you're white. Well, it's white to move. Imagine you've got the white pieces here. You've got this open file, but it's not game over yet. Anyone got any suggestions how you can increase the pressure on the king side here, potentially? So you've got one open file, but how could you get more bits over there to keep the pressure up? Because one piece attacking is not going to be enough. You could throw the knight in.
Rook swing.
Sorry?
Rook swing. Give her a rook over.
That could very, very interesting idea, like this, yeah, something like that. Yeah, I like that. That's a nice idea. That is certainly a very imaginative idea. And the other idea, as a couple of people are pointing out as well, so well done, everyone else, is also the queen swing. You could literally just try to get the queen in straight away. So both of these ideas, I think, are well worth trying. And I think black only has a couple of moves against this one. I think this is just the quickest way. You're literally just threatening to get the queen in with checkmate. And it is a bit like the first game. That's why I thought we'd include this idea of using the h-pawn in quite a deadly way here. After the queen comes here, black has to be very careful in this position. Maybe black has to play... Well, okay, what should black play here? Because if black plays something like knight c6, a normal developing move, I think he could be completely lost after this one. I mean, you can try to grovel on with the rook coming to this square, but it's very, very dangerous. So you've got to be able to defend very well. And after the queen comes here, anyone suggest a good defensive move here? Hello, Crafty Raf in the chat there. I hear a Chessable author of renown, fame, Crafty. E6. A lot of people saying E6, just so the queen covers here. I might even put the pawn on E5. I mean, you might as well put the pawn as far forward as you can. And now at least your queen covers that square. But if I was white here, I mean, chess is all about countering threats. If your opponent counters your threat, you try to put the threat back on. And then, well, Kevin, we do have D4, but that kind of blocks the queen. We can't bring the queen to G4 because of the bishop. But I would be, I'd be trying to get the bishop to G5 now. And I wouldn't want, I'd be thinking something like this. I don't know if it works because I'd be very careful of E4, but this is just the kind of thing you should be thinking with the bishop coming here and the queen coming over here. But of course, this gets very tactical after this. I don't think this is working. Suddenly, black started a counterattack. But this is just a very interesting way to play. But if we have a look at the way the game went, I think Mishra, he played incredibly well. Because, okay, E4 was played here. I think you can still even play this idea of swinging the queen over. If I was white here, I'd be very tempted to give the check, let's say bishop D7, and just immediately get my queen to the square. I mean, it looks a little bit crazy, but it's got a lot of sense because we're also now threatening to take on G6. And we wouldn't want to take on G6 in this position because black simply takes back with the H-pawn. And this exchange of rooks, well, we've wasted 1, 2, 3 tempo just to exchange rooks, which is a waste of time. I mean, black doesn't want to take back with the F-pawn because you've got these kind of weaknesses on this diagonal. But one of the points that maybe Hikaru could have possibly tried here, which I was thinking, is you can maybe go for this queen over here. This just makes your opponent's life a little bit more difficult because if knight to C6, we can now take on G6. And you can't go here because, well, it's checkmate, which I'm sure most of you can see. So what is white's idea here? Again, well, okay, this is very simple. We just take on H8. We don't really need to look at that one. Okay, but anyway, the game develops, and it was a really horrible ending for Mishra. I mean, but what I was very impressed with was his capability to defend. One of the hardest things in chess is to defend, and we're going to go to the ending. Basically, Hikaru got into an ending where, well, there was, I think, one mistake around about, let me just have a look here, I would say. Now, this position, let's see if anyone knows their technical endings. We've already had a look maybe at the G4 idea. In this position, and it might still be okay, but Rook C1 was what black played. Now, this is a drawn ending, but it's very hard to draw. And this move, well, I guess he's trying to do something. I don't know really why the rook went there. But when I was looking at this, I thought, okay, this is a prime case to get one of the best defensive setups that black can go for. And in some endings, even if you don't have to memorize everything, because it's so hard to memorize everything, you know, all the moves. But if you remember simple defensive setups, you can think, okay, if I ever get into this ending, which you might do one day, you just go for that setup. So can anyone remember the setup here? Yeah, Chess Flow. I think you're right. Magnus pointed this out as well. And I remember the only reason I know about the setup is I had this position as white once in Capelle le Grand, which was the biggest open in France. And I was playing in the last round for a share of first place, actually, when I was a lot younger. I was playing Grandmaster Stephenson, who was 2600 from Iceland, and I couldn't win this ending. And I was really annoyed myself afterwards because he had about 3 minutes left on the clock. And in those days, you had no increment at all. So you didn't get time added on. I had about half an hour, and he just played this defensive setup, which here Mishra could have played. And I just couldn't break it down. So John Mill was saying just keep the rook off black squares. It's not as easy as that, unfortunately, because white can try to get the king into the position a little bit more. Now, we do have a suggestion of rook d7, and this, in actual fact, is the right idea. But why is this the right idea? This is the way to defend, and this is called, and if you know, this is a very tricky ending, as someone in the Twitch chat is saying. It's very, very hard, but if you want to know a basic defensive setup, and this is Harry Taylor, this is called basically the second rank defense. And if you get this setup, it's your, if you don't want to learn, this ending in real detail, you just go for this setup, and this is the setup to get you a draw. Now, why is this a draw? Well, first of all, of course, white can't exchange rooks, so white has to keep the rooks on. Let's just get a typical position, something like this, where the white king comes in. Now, I have to be a bit careful how I play this, but let's say I go king here, something along these lines. And again, I have to be a little bit careful always in these positions, but very hard for white to win. And the typical idea, I'm just going to put a position on the board where at some point, we're not going to go there, sorry. If you go there, I will check you, come back, and I just got to keep my rook on this rank. And if I go check, the king just comes back, and it's really hard to come through. But the key defensive idea, and I do want to set this up, let's say now I go something like check here. You can even allow the king in, and this is where you keep checking the king. But at some point, you get this, and it's just, you can't break it down because you've got a stalemate idea, and I'm just going to show the stalemate idea. I'm not doing a very good job of setting this up, but let's say we keep going like this, and eventually white can arrange it so the white king gets here, okay? And this is the best position that white can get, right? And it looks like white is winning. So at some point, white can get this position. And I think a lot of people don't go into this ending because they think, oh, you can even have this bishop on d6. It doesn't matter which of these two squares to go to. But the key drawing method is the next idea. And well done, Harmony, straight away. And also, I tried learning some time ago, but just couldn't make it stick. It's a really tricky ending. But the thing to remember is, you just keep the rook on the second rank, and all you do, this is the best position white can get, but the key drawing idea is this check. And I think as long as you remember that check at the right moment, you should be able to at least make it very tricky for your opponent. The point is, if white ever takes the rook, it's immediately stalemate, and that is your drawing thing. And if the white king ever moves away, you keep checking it. And of course, if it ever goes away, you can move your rook again. But the point is, as soon as the king gets opposite yours, where it looks like doom is about to happen, you go for the stalemate trick. Yeah, it is called the Cochrane position, or just the simple idea is the second rank defense. And I just think that is the easiest way to try and get a draw if you ever get to this ending. And you never know, it might be useful at some point. So if you're defending this ending, just try to get your rook on the second rank, and just remember you have that stalemate trick, and keep your rook as near to your king as possible, because if it goes a long way away, it may, of course, drop off, and you don't want that to happen. Right, okay, now I think we're only doing an hour thing today, so I did want to just show you the last. I'm just going to load this in, guys. So now this is where my tech skills are going to be pushed. And it's going to be quite interesting if I can do this. So, and the last thing, because obviously there's a lot of things that we could have a look at. Is this going to work? Is it going to work? Let me just see if I've loaded this in. The last thing I wanted to look at, I mean, we could look at so many things. We can make the show for ages, but was just this Mamajarov idea, because you got a chance to play it again. So if you're going to take away a couple of things today, I think it's, some of the ending ideas, that G4 idea, but also this opening idea. And again, like I say, you really can with so many games played. I mean, 8 times 5, 40 games of chess at top level play. There's so many things you can learn from the games, the games play. But let's see if I've done this properly. Have we done this properly? Yay, we've done it. Okay, so I'm now going to test you. Okay, actually, I'm going to test you. Let's see if this works. Okay, I'm going right. Okay, this is where it doesn't matter if I mess up the show, because we're nearly finished anyway. So I'm going to see. You've got to guess the white moves. This could go horribly wrong. So I'm playing them, but you can't see me play them. Okay, but we're going to have a go at this. And you might, if you're in the lesson, we're going to see. Okay, let's go that far. How do we make a test out of this? Quiz. No, not that one. Okay, I might need a little bit more practice at this. I'll tell you what we do. I'll just do we'll just do it like this for now. I'll practice a bit more at home. Okay, so this is Mamajarov versus David Anton. Click start quiz. Okay, should we try it? Should we try it? Okay, quiz. Student plays white. Okay, is this right? Okay, yeah, let's do that. I don't know if this is going to work. I know I did this before as well, and it shows my absolute, even though I do make courses for a living and I'm supposed to be really good with technology, it shows my complete rubbish technology things. But I'm sure that I'll try again next time. But as we're running out of time a little bit, let's just have a look at this opening idea. And I know it does work really well. You guys at home can actually do it on the board, but we'll do it next time. I'll make sure we get it cracked on then. But okay, this is Mamajarov versus David Anton. So those of you who remembered his idea against the King's Indian, just for now, type in the message box and see if you can remember his idea. So we're kind of doing move trainer here in an interactive way. So what is Mamajarov's first move? If you remember at the start of the show, against the King's Indian. So just type in the box. Okay, bishop g5, well done. That's not the first move. Okay, d4. I'll play black. So knight f6. Type in the box what you think white's move is. Okay, if you followed it, c4, well done. Okay, I'm going to go g6. What's white's idea here? Knight c3, well done. And this is what we call stage one. If we break it down into stages, this is a good stage one because you're controlling the center a bit. You've got a knight out, so you have some control in the center. Now, this idea particularly is against black's bishop g7 idea, the King's Indian defense. So now we come to stage two. So what is stage two here? Papa Bear is still there. Well done, Papa Bear. Knight to f3. Well done. Knight to f3 first. First of all, you bring out both of the knights. Get both of the knights into the game. You might as well get that extra development. And in this position, well, black generally castles. He can play d6, but we're going to play the same thing against both. So when he castles, well, you're already jumping ahead here. And I think most of you know the idea. Well done. And this is Mamajarov's new idea. And I think it's so much worth remembering. Bishop g5. And now, if black doesn't do anything, let's say black plays some real quiet moves. Just type in the box, or maybe you can even say on the microphone. Let's try that out. What are white's next three moves? Let's say next three moves. Anyone want to give that a go?
h4, h5, h6.
Pretty much h4, push the h pawn. And what do you do with the queen there? Where'd you put the queen? Because you've got to combine it
Queen
with the
d2.
Yeah, and the bishop, where does the bishop go?
Well, the bishop will end up going to h6 after you go to d2.
Brilliant. That's it. Well done. Well done, sir. Yeah, we've got to give you a prize as well because you've got involved a couple of times. Do you want the socks, the cup, or the t-shirt?
I'll do the socks.
Cool. You've got some Chessable socks now. It's like Christmas all over again. Some crappy gifts. Oh, I bet I'll probably get some. Okay, send that man some socks. Okay, we'll make a note of it and we'll contact you. We'll get you some nice socks. So the idea, is just very simple here. You're just trying to play queen d2, get rid of the bishops, and push the h pawn. So black now plays h6. So what do you play here? Because black's you have to do something with your bishop, and this is where it gets quite interesting. Well done, everyone. Good stuff. Well done. Yep. Bishop d2, you've all got it right. The bishop, and this looks really weird, and this is the new idea. I've never seen this before. The bishop moves to what looks like a very passive square, but we have a crafty idea. But let's say we've got to look at what our opponent does, and David Anton now played c5. So how do we play against c5 here? We've got to look at our opponent's moves, and we want to keep the position closed. So Harmony, you've got the right idea, but you've got to look at your opponent's moves. And we don't want to let him open up the center of the board. So we now play, and Crafty Ralph likes crafty ideas. We've got to try to keep it closed and keep the space advantage. And now black plays d6, and then we can go back to our plan. So what's the plan here again? And this is where it's a really nice plan. Yep, queen c1. Good work, guys. Good work. And we're just threatening to take there. It's nice. And now after king h7, this is where we launch. Here we go. Yes, h4. And the idea of h4, a couple of ideas. One of them is to go h5 and just try to open up black's king. And Mamajorov has some great games in this. You can play this slowly, and maybe h5, g5, you can sacrifice on g5. When I was watching this, I was even thinking maybe you can go knight g5 check if you're completely psychotic. I mean, that looks like an absolutely... Let's have a look at that. I mean, I was wondering, let's say black plays a normal move. Can we go here? Or is that completely stupid? Or is it just a little bit stupid? Or is it... I don't know. This could be one of the weirdest draws ever. If the king goes back, we go back here and we get a perpetual. I mean, what a stupid draw that is. But my point is, if you ever take here...
Do you have 96?
Do you have 96?
Like if he doesn't... Like if he moves 96 and then bishop takes each.
You can certainly give it a go.
Yeah.
I like this. We're going completely bonkers again. I mean, I don't know if this works because you are giving up a piece, but it's a nice idea. I mean, it's not so stupid. And the other idea is, let's just have a look. If he takes here, well, we take with check. If he goes knight h5, we can go g4. We're going to get our piece back. And if he goes king g8, I think we're going to get a winning attack here because we're going to take on f6. And we're not even material down. And then we go back to our first plan of bishop h6, and our queen comes in to h6. So that's the idea. Anyway, guys, was that the first ever live after show classroom Chessable lesson. It's been an honor to do it. It's been quite a lot of fun. It's a lot more interactive and intense than we've done before. I hope some of you found it interesting. But do remember, every day over the next 9-10 days, you're going to get a different grandmaster doing a different lowdown. And I'm sure some of these guys are just phenomenally better than me. So you'll really have a good chance to ask them questions and do many cool things. And you might even you might even win a pair of socks as well. Imagine if Kramnik awards you a pair of socks. Could there be a better day in your life than that? I don't think so. Kramnik giving you socks. You can't beat that. Just all your Christmases in one. So maybe you'll get an opportunity to get that in future. Okay, guys. So I've no idea how to close this down, but I'm gonna end it now. So thank you all for coming in the classroom and have a good rest of the night and enjoy the rest of the Chessable show. Remember to check out the show each day. And all the courses are on sales at the moment, but you can always, if you get into the classroom early, you'll be able to have the same experience in future. No more prizes. You're going to have to come back tomorrow for prizes, I'm afraid. I'll set some quizzes for you. You don't want me to give you socks. You really want Kramnik to give you socks. It'll be much more fun. There'll be more socks given out every day, I'm sure. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right. And I'll see if I can close this down now, but thank you very much. I think it's the same time tomorrow, I believe. So yes, and yeah, I think so. Let's see if I can turn it down. But anyway, goodbye for now. And I've no idea how to stop the show. I guess I'll close the window down. Let me ask the producer how to